How you doing, everybody? This is Chris in our engine room at Pro Car here. People keep asking about the AMC Hornet that my dad has, and so I thought I'd give you a quick update. I'll also do a video at the car as we're working on it. Obviously, we still have a lot more work to do, but it is about 60% of the way there as far as the car goes. It is the original Maskin Kanners AMC Hornet. There was two that was made by Tom Smith, the Tom Smith Wolverine chassis. And I have pictures of that car from the time that my dad had it. You know, there's some history with that car when it went from Maskin Kanners, the M&M Boys, Wayne Wolf, and Winstead. And then it ended up in my dad's hands in the late 80s. And so, my dad had helped Winstead and Wayne out with engines and things like that when that car was running back in the mid-80s. And so, as time went on, then he acquired the car. And then that car has a bit of a history too since then, because it was also the car that ran the Batten 4-valve engine that my dad co-developed and was chief development engineer on. And so, there's a lot of history with that AMC Hornet going back to its inception with Maskin and Kanners, obviously. And people have said that, yes, there's other AMCs. Well, yes, of course, there were other AMCs built, but there was Maskin and Kanners and Wally Booth that were factory-sponsored AMC cars by AMC. So we actually have right here one of the original blocks. We have the original set of heads all done. We have original intake. We have original carburetors redone. That, like, the carburetors went back through with Gary Williams. He actually redid the carburetors for us, but they are the actual factory carburetors that were run back then. We were very fortunate to acquire some of these things from people like Wally Booth many years ago, and get these items that we need so we can put this car as much back together as it needs to be, with representing what it was of that time and that era. And the artwork we have over at Marizita Graphics, and they're going to obviously do all the graphics. We're going to take all that artwork, we're going to put it on the car, so it'll be all original. It'll have the original AMC Pro Stock engine, which we're getting ready to finish assembling here over the next 30 days. There's still some work we got to do in figuring out. My dad was doing a lot of little tricks to it, and fortunately for me, I have a whole binder that my dad had started, and it has everything in it that he was working on. So, and in his notes and some of the special things he was doing with technology today, to make this thing, try to make as much power as it possibly can make, because it's definitely going to make a lot more than it ever made back in those days. And of course, it's all naturally aspirated, and we'll get it running. And the goal with this car, the reason why my dad was restoring this car, was he was honestly restoring to sell it as it was, to put it back to the original Maskin and Kanners artwork with the original body. I mean, hell, I can remember as a kid, we got pictures literally at Tom Smith's Wolverine chassis when it was there. I worked for Tom Smith when I was 13 and 14 and 15. I spent two and a half summers with him, and that was all the way until I went away to high school for 4 years. But I worked with Tom, and we had that AMC Hornet there because over the time people had changed the suspension, the 4-link, and the 4-link and all that went to a ladder bar system, so it's back to the factory 4-link that it was. So there was definitely iterations, if you will, of that car, and we got pictures of it hanging here at our shop, like vertically. I mean, we've had the body off that car twice. I mean, that body was so paper thin, because they used to acid dip those bodies back then. So when we first stripped that car down and got it down to the bare metal, there was areas where, like, you could put your finger and you could practically see through, and you could see the impression of your finger right there. It was so thin. So obviously we had to it's all the original body. Now it's just we fiberglassed the back end to make it all structural, so it wasn't flimsy, because there was areas like the roof. I mean, it would just, it would wave at you. So that my dad made, he made these bands, these balsa bands to go inside, and then fiberglass it, so it's all structural now, and it's all very nicely done. So the car will be in pristine shape with that original body, which you can't find those anymore. I mean, when you think back to that era, right, and that's an acid-dipped original body that was Maskin and Kanners, so it's a very rare car. We had talked about actually racing it, in Nostalgia Pro Stock, but quite honestly, since then, people have convinced us that we should not race that car. So you will actually get to see when this engine is done, and we'll dyno it on our engine dyno and see what it is, and you'll see it in the car, and we'll have it running for you, and you'll be able to move the car around, you'll be able to do burnout, just like you were to race the car, no different. But the reality is that's just such a rare car, it should really never see the track again. And when we get it all done, for those of you out there, you collectors, this car will be available, and I'm looking at getting slots in auctions right now. It'll probably go to, I'm looking at the Mecum auction, and so my mother and I will probably put it up there because that's what my dad wanted. He wanted to get this car all done, restore it, get it back, and get it in a collector's hands. So that's a quick update. As you can see, original AMC engine that we're putting in together for that thing. You know, we got good Oliver rods that we're going to be doing here. And we even got our diamond hard coat pistons. And I'll let you guys figure out why we would do a diamond hard coat piston on a naturally aspirated engine. There are many reasons. And that's the tough stuff we run when we run higher end applications. And in this case, we wanted to really be able to lean on this engine a bit and make some power with it just because. So if you have any more questions about the AMC, please pay attention and watch us. We will be sharing as much as we can about the car throughout the build process. I have tons of photo albums, the old days back to my childhood working on that car and the different iterations it went through, different paint schemes it went through. It was actually really sad, honestly. Now we're going back to the original Maskin Kanners colors, but the paint scheme on it right before then was done by a gentleman's name, Tommy Taylor. Any of you famous hot rod people out there, painters around the country, would know that Tommy Taylor was one of the top hot rod painters, Harley custom painters in the world back in his time. He was from California. He was a good friend. I got to spend a summer working with Tommy Taylor when I was 17 years old. When we were in Elkhart, Indiana for a stint. One summer my dad was doing a development project, and I got to work with him and spend a summer with him out in Elkhart while my mom stayed back here and kept the shop, and we had a place in Michigan and back and forth. So I was very fortunate to work with Tommy Taylor. Well, Tommy Taylor, there's pictures of us in the paint booth up in our front area of the building that Tommy came in for a week, and he painted, Sherwin-Williams donated all the paint, and Tommy painted that car in a week, and my dad and I and him worked on that car. So it was a bit sad to see that paint scheme go, because that was the last race car he ever painted. A few years later he had passed away due to a brain aneurysm, so that was pretty sad. But anyhow, I just wanted to give you a quick update. Here's the AMC engine we're going to be building. Stay tuned, there's going to be a lot more coming on this. Thank you.